When it comes to automotive maintenance, probably one of the last things you think about is your shifter cables, but it's super important to make sure they're maintained well and are functioning properly.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Stance Brothers.
If these cables break or just get worn down and stop functioning properly, it can leave you stranded because your engine can't shift into the correct gear. Like maybe you can't go into drive or something to move forward even to get on the road. I mean, you know, it's happened to me twice. The first time that happened, one of the wires in the shifter cable actually broke. And the second time, the clip holding the wire to the transmission fell off.
Now, the number one way you can make sure your shifter cables last as long as possible is drive carefully, shift slowly. Don't rip through the gears at 1,000,000 miles an hour like a maniac, all right? Take care of your car, okay? Be nice to it. Well, since here at Stance Brothers, we're not for any of that conventional driving style. Rip through them gears like you're a madman, drive to the fullest, and just keep a second pair of, shifter cables on hand for when they blow up, because they will. The other thing you can do is just be aware of how your vehicle's shifting. If you're having any trouble getting into gear, you should probably go get your shifter cables checked out, or if it's been long enough, just get them replaced altogether. The last time I replaced my shifter cables was only 2 years ago, so unless you drive like a normal person, you might just have to make this part of your, semi-annual maintenance routine.
I can't even drive up on the stinking ramps. Forget this, I'm just gonna jack it up. Now step one is you wanna get the front end of your car up enough to where you can climb around underneath and have room to work. Step two is gonna be to remove the entire interior of your vehicle. Just kidding, but the shifter cable does go through the firewall right down there. So we're gonna have to take out the center console area and everything around the shifter. Oh, check that bad boy out. Drop the trap mix. This whole middle part should just basically just pull out like that. Oh, you also have to remove the cigarette lighter or else you're gonna rip that wire out. And now that the center console is removed, we can see the shifter cables, and then just following the cables down, they run here along the carpet, and then they pop out through the firewall up there, and then the cables come up through there and connect to the shifting part of the transmission behind there. All right, so it's pretty straightforward. You just wanna take your screwdriver here and just basically just turn and pop this one right off. You want to get your screwdriver between the pole and the back of this and just pry away. There we go. And now that's disconnected there. Just trying to pop that socket right here off of the knob on that shifter. Next, we're going to be removing the top of this clamp, which braces the cables in place. Just a 10mm socket, and just pull this off real quick. Super easy. All right, and I just finished pulling the carpet back, and on this particular vehicle, there is no hardware here on the inside where it passes through the firewall. So all the rest of our work is gonna be underneath and in the engine bay. All right, so here is where it pokes through the firewall. You can kind of see it's just those two nuts holding that kind of sandwiching plate on there. We're just gonna remove all that, and then that center section is gonna be loose. Now, I'm sure it's not like this on all vehicles, but at least this on my Saturn SL2, there's not even room to get like a ratchet over top. You're basically stuck using very small tools, like either a wrench like this or a small pair of pliers to get around there. So it's just gonna take a few minutes, but we're gonna remove these, and that'll be so much fun. Okay, the plate's off, and now you can see that's all nice and loose. The last part in removing our shifter cables is just gonna be detaching them from the shifting arms coming off the transmission. I removed the air intake system just for like a better camera view and stuff like that. But you can check out our video. This thing is actually new. We did a full install video on that, and you can check that out up here. And you can see the cables coming down there. We have the first one here, and then the second one right down there below it. They came back the next day because the rain was just way too loud to record and get good audio with. So we're just gonna pick right back up. We're taking those cables off the transmission. The screwdriver, just pry up that tab, pull that off, and then this whole thing slides off that knob. So you got this knob here, and you got this knob here. All right, and there's the second one. Okay, these clips are out. It was a little tricky just getting those off of there. Basically, they have that little ridge there, and once that ridge is pried away, you can just pull those right out and they come out easy. Okay, the next step is just making sure these are slid out of the way of their little brace there. And then once those are loose, we should be able to slide the entire system back in through the cab. And something I forgot to mention, this whole thing goes better if you eat a stinking fig bar. They're so yummy. So good. Alright, then you slide this part out. Right there. And then you just kind of give it some encouragement here. That went nicely. I think I gotta move some from the engine real quick. So right now I'm kind of having to feed it in from the bottom. I'm currently underneath the car. And then you still have this metal plate over top of everything. Just make sure to slide that through the rest of the way so it's not interfering with your cables. Another thing is with both of those large ends on there, you can't really slide them through together. So you just gotta pick one side, slide that through first, then go to the other side and slide that one out. Ow, I hit my funny bone. Okay, now these should pull out the rest of the way. Oh man, now it's all stuck under the chair. There we go. There we go. Yeah, look at that. Sick. Okay, so here we have the old ones and we have the new ones. Now see on the old ones, this centerpiece is really close to the end here. This one, super far away. But don't worry, this whole thing slides along these cables just like that. So when you get these and you're like, it's the wrong height. I don't think it'll fit. I think it's for the wrong car. They gave me the wrong part. No, you just kind of go like that and it's all perfect, just like that. Fine and dandy. Now again, the opening in the firewall isn't big enough for these both to go through at once. So it helps if you can slide one offset and send them through staggered like this. It'll just help the whole thing go through much easier. And before you begin your install, be sure to remove your hardware and loosen up this sandwich plate. Also, while you're installing these, it's important to make sure that that back plate that connects and like directly bolts onto the firewall is going through the right angle. So just make sure you have your right side, left side aligned correctly for that all to go on seamlessly. I'm just trying to make sure this gets lined up correctly. Then once both ends of the shifter cables are through, it's time to connect that center plate to the firewall and just run those bolts through. Okay, so the first step is to slide that metal plate through, get that through all the way. Then once that's passed through, you can slide your rubber middle piece down that line as well. Now on this particular vehicle, there aren't actually holes for the bolts to go through. It just all goes through that opening. This is like literally the hardest part of the install, is getting this lined up and in the right spot to be able to start tightening it down and getting it actually on there. So now that that plate is just barely on there, I want to get the first nut started and just begun on there. Or everything just sits in there so delicately. If it's stuck in there in like less than a super terrific way, it's just gonna fall out, bro. So you really got to get it started and then just try your best to like cinch it in while you have it. Wow, that was so difficult. But now that's on there and we can take the wrench and just start tightening that up. Literally, if you can get it past this part, you're gonna win. Okay, that is finally on. That took absolutely forever. I cannot express to you just how like innocent that looks, but how hard it is to actually like get on there. That was insane. I can't even say just how uniquely difficult that was. But going back and forth like under the car, is it lined up? Going back into the cab, making sure the pressure's right and the alignment is good. Then going back under and then you bump it wrong and then it slides back in. So you gotta go back up into the cab. Just a lot of back and forth. I would 100% recommend when you do this job, getting your vehicle as high as possible. Get it up on jack stands. If you have a lift, get it up on a lift. I would have loved to have like 6 more inches under here. I just, you know, put it on the ramps, you know what I'm saying? That would be my #1 recommendation to decrease fatigue, is have more room to work under the car. It's time to reconnect the cables at the transmission and up at the shifter. Also, with getting the cables lined up for the transmission, I noticed it was easier to go into the cab and push the cables through that little rubber grommet place rather than trying to pull from up in the engine bay. A lot of back and forth from the cab to the engine bay, making sure those lengths are correct and lined up. But now they're all in place and we can actually start putting those clips on now. All right, so we got this bottom one already. Now all we have to do is the top one. All right, and there's the top one. Now we just got to do these last 2 clips. We're back in the cab now. This long one here needs to go back through that little opening so it can run under here to that middle shifting point. And this one here just slides right over top of that little knob. Just like that, and then that one's done. Now we gotta do this one. I would recommend putting a little bit of grease in there just for lubrication, just a bit of multi-duty complex grease. And we really don't want to have, you know, any type of resistance with shifting because, well, we're gonna be shifting a lot, you know what I'm saying? So you want it to be smooth every time. All right, there we go. Now all that's on. Now the very last step is to put this plate over top of these. And this plate has an arrow on it indicating that this rounded edge goes forward. All right, well that's it. That's the install. The rest is just putting the carpet back, putting the cold air intake back on.
Thank you so much for joining us here at Stance Brothers. Make sure you're maintaining your vehicle. You don't want to be stranded somewhere because you can't go into drive. Talking into a camera is so awkward.